It's the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast brought to you by 90min, and we are live. You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast.
I'm Martin Tyler, and you're listening to Harry Symeou.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome back to another live edition of the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast, brought to you by 90min. As ever, I'm your host, Harry Symeou, and on this edition, we're going to be focusing on the report from Football.London that says Arsenal will allow Alexandre Lacazette to leave the club this coming summer if the price is right. So we're going to be discussing Alexandre Lacazette. We'll be talking a little bit about his career at the Arsenal so far. We'll be talking about his recent form and whether or not that would be the right move, whether or not Arsenal should be contemplating selling Alexandre Lacazette in the summer, or if we should be trying to keep hold of the Frenchman. I'll be getting your thoughts, your views and your comments from the live chat box as well. And I'll be answering any questions that you guys might have, not just on Alexandre Lacazette, but on anything Arsenal or football related. Quick update for our members. There's a piece of members-only content dropping early this evening, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Recorded it yesterday. Thank you to those of you who sent questions over. For those of you who have won books so far on our watch-alongs, I've had a bit of an update. Those have been sent out, so you should be receiving those in the next 4 to 5 days. Apologies for the delay. As I said, they're coming to you guys directly, not from the stock that I have here. They're coming to you guys in a post, which is why it's taken a little bit of time to get that order processed. But anyway, let's get into it. Let's say a big hello actually first. I feel like I should do that first because there's plenty of you joining us in the live chat. Big hello to Norwegian Gooner, to Graham, to Junior Gunner, to Nithin, to Marble Halls TV, to Topher, to Josh, to Syed, to Barry, to Sam. Hope you're all good. Let's talk about it then. Let's talk about the report first of all. And the report says that Arsenal would be willing to allow Alexandre Lacazette to leave this summer. That report comes from Chris Wheatley at Football.London, who's usually very good. And, you know, this doesn't come as a massive surprise to me, if I'm honest. You know, I've talked about it before. I've talked about the fact that with him, obviously, next year, entering into what would be the final year of his contract. So at the end of this season, Alexandre Lacazette will only have one more year remaining on his contract. So you can understand why there might be a desire from the club to try and earn some money. You know, and bring him in, because if the contract is running down, obviously that means his value is constantly decreasing. At Alexandre Lacazette's age, and I don't mean that disrespectfully, are we gonna, would we be wise to offer him a long-term contract? I mean, we did it for Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, but I just think when you compare the two throughout their Arsenal careers, as good a servant as Alexandre Lacazette has been, as much of an impact as he's had in certain games, he's not produced with anywhere near the level of consistency. He's not scored anywhere near as many goals as Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, and he's played a significant amount of matches more than Aubameyang has as well. So Aubameyang was just, for me, he'd played so well in the first couple of seasons with the club, 2.5 seasons, whatever it was, that you kind of just had to do it, because if you didn't, you were A, losing your best player, and B, you would have sent the wrong message, I think, at a time when Arsenal are looking to steer back on track and get back competing up the top of the table and amongst Europe's elite. Then you need to have your best players, and it would have just showed, you know, for me that, you know, Arsenal were only thinking about the cash and not necessarily the football inside. So I know there's been a lot of debate around whether giving Aubameyang that deal this season or in the summer was the right thing to do, and that's been off the back of some of his sort of up and down form. But the reality is that had Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang continued his rich reign of form, then nobody would even be talking about it. It would have felt like a no-brainer. Hindsight is a wonderful thing, but there are signs that we're starting to see our Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang return to somewhere close to his best, and so it was a dip. And in all honesty, it was the first dip that he's had probably in his Arsenal career. So I think we can forgive him for that. In terms of what the price is that Arsenal would be looking for Alexandre Lacazette, if I'm honest, I don't think there was one quoted. I'll just double check it. But I think that would be, I think as a journalist, you'd be very brave, to reveal or to try and guesstimate what Arsenal's exact price would be. And I'm just having a quick glance at the report again, just to make sure that I haven't missed it. But I'm pretty certain that there wasn't a specific price named, and understandably so. Alexandre Lacazette, 29 years old. By the time his current contract ends, he'll be about to turn 31. You look at his Arsenal career to date, and it doesn't make terrible reading, but it's 157 games, 59 goals, 28 assists. So if you try and work out a bit of an average on the goals, 157 divided by 59, he averages a goal every 2.66 games. It's nearly 1 in 3. It's not amazing. It's not the kind of record that you look at and you go, well, that we can never replace that. And so when you take that into consideration, the fact that under Mikel Arteta he's not always starting games, there seems to be this bit of rotation going on at the moment between he and Aubameyang for the centre forward spot, and it seems to be partly due to fitness, but partly due to the opponent we're playing. So that is obviously a factor as well. When you take into consideration that, according to Transfer Market, and I know Transfer Market's values can be a little bit off the mark, but you're talking about a player valued around about £30 million at the moment, and you consider Arsenal's current financial status and the fact that the global pandemic has had a big impact on the club's finances, to take 30 million for a player like Lacazette, if it means that we can then continue our rebuild, continue progressing, continue trying to fill in holes in other areas, then I think it actually probably would be a no-brainer. If Lacazette has 2-3 years left on his contract, it's a different story for me, because I do like Alexandre Lacazette, and I'm going to come on to kind of tell you guys what I think that Lacazette brings to the team that maybe Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang doesn't. I think he brings a better understanding of the game. I think he brings better link-up play to the table. I think he enjoys a better relationship with some of the players around him. I mean on the pitch, I don't mean off the pitch. I mean in terms of his understanding of what they're going to do, their understanding of where he's going to be. So I get all that. And yes, as a goal scorer, he's not been as prolific as Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, but it's not been bad. As I said, it's about a goal every 2.66 games, which is by no means disastrous. But he tends to go through streaks, Alexandre Lacazette. You might see him for 3 or 4 games hit the back of the net frequently, and then you'll see him drop off for maybe 7-8 games without scoring a goal. And that's been a pretty common theme of Alexandre Lacazette's Arsenal career. So when you look at those stats, it's interesting to look at the context of them as well. And the context is that he's a streaky player in terms of his goal scoring, Alexandre Lacazette. That's what he is. And I don't think you can really afford to have that kind of player. We had Olivier Giroud, who was like that in years gone by. And everybody always looks back on that period where he went, I can't even remember exactly how many games it was, but there was a long period, wasn't there, where Giroud didn't score a goal, and many people attribute us not winning the title in that particular season to that. So, for me, I don't like strikers like that, right? It's not, I don't like is the wrong word. Strikers like that, they can be great through moments, but they can also leave you in the lurch for a little while. And when your team is struggling on the whole, you need your striker to be at the races, and you need to look at your striker and know that he can pop up with a goal and give you something, a moment of inspiration, a moment of magic. And I don't think that that Lacazette always does that. Effort wise, 10 out of 10. effort levels are, you know, you cannot question them. You know, he's always in the thick of things. He's always fighting for the ball. He's always working hard. He's always pressing people. He's always closing people down. He's always happy to, you know, commit a foul if it means that he prevents the opponent breaking away. Sometimes he does that too often for my liking. But my point is, you know, that when it comes to Alexandre Lacazette, I think he's a good striker, but I don't think he's irreplaceable. And I think in years gone by, we've allowed ourselves to get in a situation whereby we've lost a player who we could have got some money in for, who we could have cashed in on just slightly earlier, and it wouldn't have had such a major impact on the team. And in turn, we'd have had the finances to then go and do something more significant just after losing him. And I think that with Lacazette, as I say, good player. I like the guy, like his character, love what he represents, love that he, you know, really cares about the Arsenal. But for me, he's not irreplaceable. And if the right bid come in, I think Arsenal would be right to accept that. I really do. Let's have a look at what some of you guys are saying in the live chat as well. And apologies if I missed some of your comments, because this chat's been updating constantly while I've been talking. So let's see what you guys are saying. Sam, one of our members, says, "What's good, Harry? Hope you're okay, mate. I would be sceptical about letting Laka go. He's the only striker we have who's good at holding the ball up and bringing others into play." I agree with that, Sam. I agree that he brings something to the table that none of our other strikers do. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang prefers to run in behind, prefers to be able to drift out to the flanks and get involved in play that way. That's where he scores his most goals from. Alexandre Lacazette is a little bit different. He can be a focal point, and he is a focal point when he plays. A bit of a spearhead, you know, receives the ball with his back to goal very well, and he's able to bring others into the game. So Lacazette deserves praise for that. There's no doubt about it. I think if Lacazette was to go, though, it has to be with a view to bringing in someone else, right? We can't solely rely on Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang in that position. Eddie Nketiah, for me, jury's still out on him. You know, let's talk about Balogun as well. Jury's still out on him as well, because he's not done it at the top level yet. So I do think that if Arsenal were to cash in on Alexandre Lacazette, it would be to go and bring someone in who's maybe a little bit more suited to helping us in the future. Could it be that in Mikel Arteta's mind, Gabriel Martinelli is someone who could do that role? Someone who could play the all-action centre-forward, who is clever in his link-up play, is quite robust, is quite sharp, is tenacious. Martinelli has all of those qualities. So I think Martinelli could do that role. And I wonder if the fact that, you know, Martinelli in Arteta's eyes is seen as that player is maybe why he's not getting so many games on the left flank at the moment. I don't know. We know Martinelli himself at this moment prefers to play from the left, but I could see him as an option as playing through the middle, and it's down to the manager to persuade him to do that, to give it to the team and see if they see if it works out and if he can have a future there. So who knows? But I agree with you that I agree with you, Sam, that Laka brings something to the table that not many others in the Arsenal makeup at the moment do. What else have we got here? Daru says, "This summer will be brutal for transfer values. Teams will want to sell a lot of players, but there won't be that many buyers." Completely agree. You know, teams will be looking to cash in on players such as Lacazette, who their contract situations perhaps are still a little bit unclear, are coming towards the end. You know, maybe you will see clubs wanting to cash in on those guys, but as the Roof points out rightly, you know, there may not be the appetite to buy that we've seen, you know, in years gone by due to the pandemic and due to the impact that's had. And the pandemic has had an impact, and I know a lot of people say, oh, but the Premier League teams, they still get a really healthy amount of TV money. I do agree with that. But I think the problem is that you then, you know, you look at the French league, you look at the Italian league, you look at the Spanish league, where the TV money isn't as significant, and obviously still big sums of money, but isn't necessarily as significant as it may be in the Premier League. And if they can't buy, then that impacts the transfer market, because the whole thing is interlinked. You know, if a Spanish club, an Italian club, and a German club are hamstrung by finances, then who's going to come in and pick up our player necessarily? So you got to think about those things as well, and the wider impact that this thing has had on the transfer market. Gary the Snail says, we would be right to sell him, but Bellerin and Nketiah should be a priority in terms of freeing up money. Big up, Harry. Come on, you Gunners. Interesting you mentioned Eddie Nketiah, because there is also reports today that that West Ham are going to reignite their interest in Eddie Nketiah. Now, we understand that they were considering making a move for him in the summer, but were put off by Arsenal's price tag, which is said to be around about £30 million. Look, and people always point to the example of Ryan Brewster moving from Liverpool to Sheffield United and how much that cost them. For me, I can't see a world in which someone pays £30 million for Eddie Nketiah based on what we've seen of him at Arsenal, especially at a time like this. He's not at that level for me. He doesn't deserve the vile abuse that he gets from some of our fans. He didn't deserve the criticism that was only thrown his way when it seemed like following Balogun was going to walk out the door for free, which he still might do, by the way. But when that story was the hot topic, that led to Eddie Nketiah getting a lot of stick, and I thought that was completely unfair and uncalled for. But I agree with Gary in that Nketiah is someone that we could sell to raise funds, and I don't think would weaken the squad. You look at Hector Bellerin, and there were offers on the table for him last summer, and if people are surrounding him again this summer, and we're looking at 25 to 30 million euro, then I would take that. And I would take for Lacazette. I mean, if you could get 25 for each, for Lacazette and for Bellerin, you're talking about 50 million added to your transfer kitty if you could squeeze 15, 20 million out of someone for Eddie Nketiah. Because remember, strikers traditionally carry a bit more weight in terms of transfer fees, don't they? Because obviously scoring goals is seen as a major issue for a lot of the teams down in the bottom of the table, and they're normally more willing to break the bank and push their financial boundaries a little bit further if it means that they're going to get somebody who can bring goals to their side. So look, if you could sell 3 players and raise 65, 70 million pounds, that could go a long way in this transfer market, because we've talked about the impact on the market. We've talked about the fact that prices are probably going to take a little bit of a beating, a little bit of a hammering down. And off the back of that, if you were to raise that sort of money, plus whatever it is the club already have in mind for transfers, then you could see Mikel Arteta make significant strides in the rebuild of this squad. So we're gonna have to sell, right? We're gonna have to sell, and I think Bellerin, Nketiah, and Lacazette are probably 3 players that you'd be looking at first in terms of trying to raise money. EGTV says, are you going to do another video FaceTime Ollie Watkins and Edouard? What do you mean, mate? I haven't FaceTimed them before. I'm a little bit confused on that one. Tofa says, replace Laka first, then sell. I don't want us relying on free youth and Oba to be the striker. We should get Edouard or a replacement to agree first, then sell. Yeah, and Odsonne Edouard is someone that Arsenal have been linked with. A number of clubs have been linked with him. He's got an outstanding goal record up in Scotland. I know it's the Scottish Premiership, and I don't mean that disrespectfully, but what I mean is that there's a massive dip in quality between the Scottish Premiership and the Premier League, and I think we have to consider that. There's no guarantee that Edouard will replicate that form in the English top flight, but there's no guarantee he won't either. And if the price is right, and we're hearing that he could be available for 15 to 20 million pound this summer, then I see that as a no-brainer. He's got all the attributes that I've talked about regarding Lacazette, his ability to hold up the ball, his ability to bring others into the game. He's got an incredible assist record as well. Odsonne Edouard. You know what? I'll just double check it. I know it's good because I was looking at it for a piece I was writing the other day, but just to give you some more clarity, I'll give you the exact numbers on that. So you're talking about Odsonne Edouard since he joined Celtic, who obviously have had a disappointing season this season, but he still managed to score goals. He's got 81 goals in 160 games. So there's more than 1 in 2. And he's got 35 assists as well. So clearly a provider as well is Odsonne Edouard. And what he has maybe that Lacazette doesn't is a bit more pace. So he can run in behind, play on the shoulder if necessary. But he also has a greater physical presence. He's a good 3 or 4 inches taller than Alexandre Lacazette, and that means when we do find ourselves in the situation where we're struggling to break people down and we're having to put crosses into the penalty area, Odsonne-Edouard, you'd think, would give us a little bit more threat there as well. Equally, when you're looking to play the ball upfield from deep, you've got a bigger target man, that always helps as well. And it's very rare to find a big man who's got the touch, who's got the quality as well, and the pace. And Edouard is someone that I've been keeping an eye on for a couple of seasons now. I really, really like him. So he's someone I'd consider as a replacement for sure. Let's pick out a few more comments. Again, apologies if I missed some of them. The chat is constantly updating, but Syed says, Lacazette, very important for the way we play, but we also need better. If we're going to sell him, we need to replace him with a striker like his type, but much more strength and taller. There you go, Odsonne-Edouard. He's your man. What else have we got here? Creambone says, what do you think is our priority in the transfer market this summer? It's difficult to say. I think we need to address that number 10 position on a more permanent basis, obviously, because, Martin Odegaard is someone who we've brought in on loan, but there's no guarantee that deal will be extended or that we'll be able to get him on a permanent transfer. So I think that's probably the priority, the number one. But then I think we need to look at, I forgot about the left back here. I should have said the left back. We need another left back, but that and the number 10 position for me are the two things we need to address straight away and should be looking to address first. But again, sometimes the market throws up opportunities that you didn't really necessarily expect, and that can lead to you doing deals, that perhaps you weren't necessarily planning on, but they make sense, and so you do them and you move. And that's sometimes how the transfer window works, and that's how the transfer window works when you don't necessarily find yourself in a position where you can go and spend tons and tons of money. And I do expect that to be the case for Arsenal this season, especially if we don't qualify for the Europa League or the Champions League next season. Don't discount the financial impact that has as well. So on top of everything that's going on, to not have European football would be a financial disaster as well. And you'd hope that the club will put their hands in their pockets. You'd hope that the Chronicles will be involved in something there, but expect that to be the first excuse that they wheel out when we don't go and make major signings. Just while I remember, before I continue on through the chat, just a quick reminder, this podcast is sponsored by Manscaped.com. So if your forbidden forest is in need of some tender, loving care, if you want your lawn to look as flush as the Emirates Stadium, then head over to Manscaped.com. Enter our discount code, which is 90min20, and you'll get 20% off of your order, as well as free shipping. Also, if you're interested in becoming a member of the podcast, as I said earlier on, there'll be a members bit of content dropping early this evening. So if you're interested in becoming a member, getting access to that content, as well as supporting me to bring you more content, then check out the link in the description, and you can find the tiers available and decide if any of those appeal to you. Let's continue on through the live chat. Alex McCarthy says, Lacazette has never been the 20-goal striker we thought he would be. Time to move him on and bring in an improvement. Would happily take Raul Jimenez, of course, the Wolves man, who's unfortunately been absent due to an injury sustained in the game against Arsenal, actually, where he had that clash of heads, didn't he, with David Luiz. Good to hear he's on the mend and that he could return this season, because it looked really bad at the time. So delighted that he's on his way back. But yeah, Raul Jimenez is someone who's proved he can do it in the Premier League, and he's done it at a less fancied side, if you like. Has a lot of the attributes that Lacazette does. Not all the same, but he is a good hold-up man. He's probably a lot more physical than Lacazette, a bit more of an aerial threat than Lacazette. Neither have particularly, threatening pace. But yeah, he's a decent option. But again, it all depends on pricing. If someone comes in and offers £30 million for Lacazette, then happy days, because then I believe that £30 million will go a long way in this summer window in terms of bringing in a striker. And I think that puts us in a really good position. But there's no guarantee that just because that's what we rate Lacazette at, that we're going to get that offer, or are we going to get that offer and it's going to be in a structured deal? We don't really know. And talking about potentially where Lacazette could end up, some of the places that have been talked about: Atletico Madrid, maybe Monaco, Roma. There are a number of clubs that he could end up at. Maybe he'd return to France. I don't know. But for me, it's, you need to wait and see what's going to happen in the market, because we don't know if we're going to get those prices. We don't know if those offers are going to come, and we don't know what the structure of those offers will be, and if that means that we can't then throw it all at someone else straight away and immediately. So we'll have to see. Let's see what else you guys are saying. Alfred says, here's an interesting one. If we sell Laka, would you take Aguero from City? I would love Sergio Aguero at Arsenal, but I feel like Sergio Aguero is a little bit over the hill. Not because he's not a good footballer, not because he's not a great striker, just because physically I don't think he's quite there. He's had injury problems, fitness issues throughout the campaign. I know COVID's played a part in that as well. But, somebody like Sergio Aguero will be on absolute mega bucks at Manchester City right now. If he was to come to Arsenal, it would be on a short-term deal, you'd imagine. I also think that he's got his heart set on going elsewhere, going back abroad. Sergio Aguero's boy lives in Argentina, which must be very difficult for him. So I can imagine he probably wants to return there. And yeah, for those reasons, I don't think it would necessarily fit. I don't think Sergio Aguero is in need of a major payday, which is what a short-term deal in London would essentially be. So I would take him because I think he's a good player, but I don't think it's the right fit, and as I say, I keep saying it, but because of the finances, because of the situation, and because our recruitment over recent years has been so bad, Arsenal have to be careful now. It's all good saying that we need to overhaul the squad and we need to bring in X amount of players, but they need to be the right players, because bringing in the wrong players is what's put us in this position in the first place. So we have to be smarter in the transfer market. Doesn't necessarily mean we have to spend more than we did in years gone by. It's not always about who throws the most money. It's about making the smartest signings. It's about bringing in players that are going to actually improve your team. And for me, that's the key. That's the key to this transfer window. What else have we got here? I'm going to pick out a few more comments. Just scrolling through. Threet says, I like Edouard, but he plays in Celtic. Their league isn't that competitive. I'm not sure if he'll perform at Arsenal. Yeah, there's no guarantee. I've already sort of touched on that. I've already touched on that. There's no guarantee. There's no guarantee with any transfer, but there's certainly no guarantee that someone playing in a weaker league is going to be able to step it up. But that's been the case forever. Junior Gunner says Alexander Isak from Sociedad wouldn't be a bad shout. He's quick, he's strong, and has a presence in the box, although his release clause is 70 million euros. Yeah, it is. And, often in Spain, there are these outrageous release clauses placed into contracts. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there is something in Spain whereby you have to insert a release clause. And a lot of the time, those release clauses are outrageous, right? So there'll be 250 million, that a price that nobody in their right mind is ever going to pay. But when it comes to a release clause like that, 70 million euros, I'm not suggesting Arsenal will pay that. But what I am suggesting is that given the impact on the Spanish clubs and the impact on clubs abroad, I think sometimes you may be able to tempt people into selling for below the release clause. And so that's a benchmark, but it's not a settled figure. So if I was interested in Alexander Isak, and I've got to be honest, I don't know enough about him to say whether I would be or not, I wouldn't be going in with a 70 million euro offer, not the first offer. No way. And I don't think Arsenal can spend that for what it's worth on a striker. I really don't. I don't think Arsenal will spend that on any player this summer. I think you might be looking at that kind of figure as our overall spend. But, I'd go in a situation like that and offer lower, like everybody else does. And some people think that leads to clubs taking an offence, and then they don't want to deal with us off the back of that because they've been, angered by our attempt to try and or almost our insulting of them by going and making an offer like that, which they see as derisory. But at the end of the day, that's the way business works, and it's only business. What else have we got in the live chat? Christos, big hello to Christos as well for joining us. Recently became a member. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your support, man. Get over and follow his Instagram page. Hold on, let me tell you exactly how you can do that. Get over and follow his Instagram page, which is Arsenal_daily_49. So head over to Instagram and give him a follow. Put some great Arsenal content on there every day. So bless me. So yeah, head over to his Instagram page, get involved, and yeah, check it out. What he says, what would you say Lacazette's market value is? Market value, as I said, I'll be looking around about £30 million for Alexandre Lacazette, but that doesn't mean if someone comes in with 26, 27, I'm going to say no. But the benchmark, the starting figure that if I were in charge of Arsenal Football Club, would be looking for Alexandre Lacazette is around about the £30 million mark. Transfermarket.co.uk say that is his transfer value too, although I'd be wary of their ratings because we tend to use them a fair amount at work, and sometimes you look at them, or in a previous job I was in, not so much now, we used to use them as gospel, and I used to feel a little bit uneasy with that because the values are often way off the mark. Scunny says, we definitely need a target man. The amount of crosses we put in the box but constantly go to waste. Completely agree. And when I talked about Hudson Edouard earlier, that's one of the reasons why I like him. Not because, look, he's not a Duncan Ferguson, but what he is someone with that physical presence to be a threat in the air. And I just feel like Lacazette misses that a little bit. It's no fault of his own. It's just not his game. Aubameyang's not a particularly potent goal threat when it comes to head using his head as well. So it's not a dig at Alexandre Lacazette, but I do think that we need that in our locker, especially when we face these teams who play with a low block. And it feels as though Mikel Arteta's side are very capable of, in those situations, creating spaces in the wide areas. But then once they do put crosses into the penalty area, who's there to convert them? Who's there even really to compete with a couple of physical centre-halves? More often than not, nobody. And that's the key there, isn't it? Alcarp says, if we sell Lacazette, we should buy Calvert-Lewin or Marcus Thuram. I like Marcus Thuram. Calvert-Lewin, I like too, but given the financial muscle that Everton have been flexing over the last few years, I can't imagine them selling us to him for anything reasonable. And they'll see us as rivals now, looking at their league position. Paul Murphy says, a little bit off the topic, but we'll answer it anyway. Do you think Arsenal will win the EPL within the next 10 seasons with or without Arteta? No, Gas. I did some data analysis on Manchester United, and results of that is 11.27 seasons before United do. I think, Paul, that things can change very quickly in football. So you look at Man United and how quickly they've gone from a Champions League contender to the second best team in the division. And that's happened based on the signing of Bruno Fernandes, right? Literally one signing, I believe, has been so key and so impactful in the way that they've stepped on. So you can make a couple of signings in a single summer, and that single summer can change the whole direction in which your team is travelling. So I don't really, I get the analysis, and it, I understand where you're coming from. I just feel like there's too many variables to make that analysis and for it to be really accurate. Like I said, I feel like you can go and have a great summer, and that in terms of who you bring in, and that can, be enough to turn your fortunes around. Well, we've seen it in years gone by. You looked at Liverpool. Who would have thought they were going to win the Premier League? And then they brought in Virgil van Dijk, and then they brought in Alisson, and bang, all of a sudden, from, being a side that were decent in the cup competitions, in particular the Champions League, competitive in that because they were able to get motivated and up for one-off nights. But then all of a sudden they brought in 2 players in the space of 6 months and consistency levels just shot through the roof. So I do think there are too many variables to make that assessment. I think Arsenal can win the Premier League in the next 10 seasons, but it's contingent on all those things I've just said. Arsenal would need to be smart in the transfer market, would need to do the right business, and Mikel Arteta will need to continue to get them, or I say continue because he's done it in the last couple of weeks, but will need to continue to get the maximum out of the players that he already has at his disposal. What else have we got? Josh Hunter says, who is your ideal striker replacement for Laka? I'm not sure. I'd have to go away and think about this, because if you're asking me about my ideal replacement, then I can have anyone in the world. But I'm trying to not get carried away with all of that, because I don't know what we'll be able to spend. I don't know what people will be available for. It's a very difficult summer to predict. And so, it's hard to give you a realistic, specific name. I keep mentioning Odsonne Edouard because I think he's someone that we should be looking at. Don't necessarily know if he's the answer. Don't necessarily know if he's the man that we should be going after. I just think that given what we've seen of him so far, given that he's probably going to be available for 15 to 20 million pound, which nowadays it's not a major amount of money. You could probably get that for one of Guendouzi or Torreira if we move them on in the summer. I just feel like he seems like a smart option at the moment, and a smart option that could prove to be a wonder stroke if it comes off. Ty, I don't know. I don't think it's the real Ty. Is it? Is it the real Ty? Please stand up. I don't know. He says we need a central midfielder too. Xhaka and Partey will need to be rotated. Bring Torreira back. Let's see what else you guys are saying. Just going to pick out a few more comments. Big hello to Ini Inyang, and thank you so much for your very kind super chat donation. Really, really appreciate that. It really does mean the world to me. He says, hey Harry, great content. Thank you. He says 30 million, even with 1 year left on his contract. That's a hard sell. Yeah, look, it's not going to be easy. That's why I kind of said, like, if someone comes in and makes an offer close to that or in that region, then I'll take it. But I think, as I say, because he's a striker, with a striker, you can probably push that boundary a little bit more. So yeah, I would still be aiming for that figure, but I get what you mean. It's not an easy figure to acquire necessarily. That noob says, watching you from the USA whilst driving to work. Love your shows. Please, would love to be a member. Thank you so much. If you'd love to be a member, click the link in the description when you stop driving. Obviously, don't want you to have an accident. But I think you can do it on any smartphone and from a PC. You cannot do it from an iPad, I'm led to believe. But if you click the link in the description, that will take you to our membership page, and I'd love to have you sign up. It would really mean the world to me. And if you sign up, of course, you get access to our Discord server. That's one of the benefits, where we have some great conversations, and I keep you guys updated on what's to come on the show. You also get to send questions that go into our members content as well. So yeah, get involved. We'd love to have you. What else have we got here? Let's pick out just a couple more. Chris Castell says, he's talking about the Spanish release clauses. Talawa Shaw says, how about Kostas Mitroglou? Bloody hell, that is a name that always puts a smile on my face. He's currently playing for Aris in Greece. Spent some time traveling all around Europe, really. Made his name at Olympiacos. Went on to play for Fulham for a bit. Went to Benfica. Spent some time at Marseille, Galatasaray, PSV Eindhoven for a bit. And now he is back in Greece. But scored a few goals against us over the years. Just trying to see if I can find that stat to hand really quickly. Probably can't, but I'll try because it's an interesting one. He's a player. Yeah, 2 goals against Arsenal. 2 goals against Arsenal. He's played Arsenal twice, scored 2 goals against us, and beaten us twice. So, yeah, Bit of a Greek legend he is. What are we going to go to next? Let's pick up a couple more. And apologies if I miss some of them. Again, it updates constantly and I'm having to play catch up. Graham says, if we don't win the Europa and finish where we are now, will there be any money for transfers? Look, there won't be as much money for transfers. Let's be honest about it. Let's be clear and upfront about it. But there will be some money. I think part of the reason that they did what they did by ultimately moving some of that dead wood out in January, because let's be honest, to have moved Mesut Ozil on, to have moved Shkodran Mustafi on, to have moved Sokratis on when they were still all under contract, Arsenal would have paid some money to terminate those contracts. So Arsenal may have saved something on what the overall cost was going to be of paying them between now and when their contracts did officially expire. But Arsenal would have forked out money to do that. So for Arsenal to fork that money out, it's because they're restructuring in other ways. It's because they are trying to find ways of taking people off the wage bill so that they can then restructure some finance, maybe restructure some debt. We've seen them do that quite smartly on a couple of occasions in recent years to raise additional funds. So I do think that there will be some money. But Graham, what you're saying is, you're obviously concerned about the impact of not qualifying for Europe and not finishing in a decent league position. What will that have on the transfers? And you're right to have that concern because, as I say, no European football will have an impact, a negative impact on Arsenal's transfer budget. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. Games FC says, before we even get our hopes up, we need to get rid of this manager. It's so harsh. So harsh. Mikel Arteta's recruitment, for the most part, barring one or two anomalies, has been really good. And so I think that's harsh. And I do, honestly, like, people call me mad. You can call me mad all you like, People called me mad when I said that Unai Emery wasn't the man to take Arsenal forward as well. And look what happened there. Sometimes when you're... And I don't mean this to sound like a bit of an arsehole, but when you're working in the game, and I'm very lucky that in the last, 2 years, where I've been working on football full time, I don't claim to know this person or know that person. I don't, I'm not pretending I'm in the know. But what I will say is, when you do this all day, every day, you get vibes of stuff. And you get vibes from talking to journalists, from talking to people that do work in the club, but are not, they're not, I'm not saying they're giving me information, but you're in communication with people. You're talking to people, you're listening to people, you're reading things. And when that is all your day is, and you're not doing anything else essentially because your focus is on that, then you do get vibes for stuff. You do get feelings for stuff. And I had a feeling that Unai Emery was not the right man for a number of reasons, which I won't go into again. But I have a feeling that Mikel Arteta is the right man. And people will say, well, it can't just be based on a feeling. No, it's not based solely on that, but that's part of it. It's part of it. And I don't think that Mikel Arteta is the issue at Arsenal. I really don't. And I don't understand why fans want to give him so much shit. I don't get why right now as an Arsenal fan you would want to be singing Mikel Arteta out from the hilltops when he's not going anywhere, and all you're doing is bringing a negativity when we're going through a project that needs positivity. It's basically what it is, and people used to accuse me of doing this with Unai Emery, and I didn't. It wasn't what I was doing at all. It was based on my genuine opinion, but what a lot of people want to do is they want to have a go at Mikel now, so much so that when he gets sacked, they can go, I told you so. And I was the first person to say it. I was one of the first people to turn on him because people seem to need that validation for their opinions and for their views. And I've never understood that. We're all football fans. We're all Arsenal fans. We all want the same thing. We all want Arsenal to be the best that they can be. And this constant need for validation of your opinions or to be seen as someone who is intellectually ahead when it comes to football is a madness. Like you can be knowledgeable about football, you can be smart, you can love the game as much as anybody else in the world, but still make a mistake, still get something wrong. Where you show if you're a man or not is when you put your hands up and you say, yeah, I did get it wrong. You know, and that's where you tell who the good ones are and who the bad ones are. The ones that have an opinion but will never change it no matter what, they're the ones you got to watch out for. The ones that have a strong opinion but are open to argument, open to discussion, and will change their opinion if they feel that's the right thing, that's the people you should be listening to. And the whole get rid of Mikel Arteta thing right now, it's just not helpful. It's really not helpful. Osman Ali says, Harry, the striker we should be targeting, pun intended, is Roman Yaremchuk. Tom from Gooner Talk TV wrote an article where I saw his name, YouTubed him, and he reminds me of a lesser Lewandowski. Interesting. I'll have a look at that. Check out Tom's work as well, because it's really, really good. What else have we got here? Some of you suggested Moise Kean. That's an interesting one. Didn't really do it at Everton, but is working out quite well abroad. He's been highly talked about again. Talau Ashore says, random question, but what is your favourite name in football? Diego Maradona. It's just such a great name. It's like the perfect superstar footballer name. As Christos says, make sure you like and subscribe. It costs nothing. It's absolutely right. In fact, now's as good a time as any to check in how we're doing on our likes. Oops. Bloody pressed the wrong button there. Didn't mean to do that. How have I done that? There we go. Mute. Don't want to click it and get any feedback. There we go. 231 watching on YouTube right now, but only 61 likes. 65 now. Guys, let's get up to 100 at least. 100 is the bare minimum. We should be doing 150, but I'll take 100. So, yeah, let's get 100. How do I bloody do that? What have I done here? For someone who uses YouTube every single day, I'm not very clued up on it, I've got to say. Giovanni Bergantino says, Ivan Toney's a good shout. Yeah, he's having a great season. Yeah, looks a very decent player. Another one of Brentford's gems. What else? Nicholas Room says, I believe the richest man in Africa will come in and change everything. Talking about Dangote. I wouldn't buy into that too much at the moment. Look, I'd love a multi-billionaire to come in who's got the attitude of Roman Abramovich, in the sense that he only wants to spend money and he only wants success. But this Dangote geezer has been talking about buying Arsenal for years and years, but he's never done anything. He's never moved to make that interest into anything more than just talk. Stan Kroenke's a businessman. That's what he is, right? And for all the stick you give him, or that anyone gives him, he is a good businessman. Maybe not a good sportsman, maybe not a good owner of a sports club, but in terms of business and finance, he knows what he's doing. And if an offer come in that was, wow, this is an offer that has opened my eyes. If he was to get an offer come across his desk that really looked serious, I think he'd consider it. At the very least, consider it. And this Dangote fella just keeps talking about Arsenal and keeps talking about how much he wants to buy the club and this and that, but he doesn't actually make any moves. So until he does that, let's not get excited about that. Gonna pick out a couple more just because I'm running out of time. I've got got somewhere I've got to be at 1 o'clock, but let's get a couple more in. Lots of you agreeing with my comments on Mikel Arteta. Let's see. Going back to the Arteta stuff, Ras says, Harry, the only thought I have with Mikel is his man management. Case in point, instead of Oba, should have brought on Martinelli and let it be a coaching moment to him. But we don't know what the deal is with Martinelli. Everybody's like, I don't get it. We went to Leicester City, who nobody fancied us to beat. We come away from there with a really impressive win, by the way. A win in which the only goal we conceded was of our own making. I thought Arsenal were really, really good the other day. Really good. Maybe as good as we've been all season. And yet people want to talk about the decision to bring Aubameyang on instead of Gabriel Martinelli. And, on the one hand, you got Gabriel Martinelli saying, I want to play as a left winger. And then you've taken off Alexandre Lacazette, who's been playing as a centre-forward, and brought on Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, who actually does want to play as a centre-forward. And people complaining about it. I just don't get it. It's like, it takes me back to the game against Benfica, the second leg the other night. And those of you who were with me on the watch-along will remember this. I had an absolute rant when Willian came on because of people moaning about him coming on. Not because he was brought on. Because my argument was, if we get the result, if this change works out, then you can't look at the manager and point fingers at him. You can't. You have to just accept that he's got it right on that day. And I think that in the case of Gabriel Martinelli, you can't please anybody, because if you bring him on, some would say, well, we scored our third goal at a good time and we had loads of time to bring him on and we didn't do it till the last however many minutes. Why did he only give him X amount of minutes? And then if you don't bring him on, it's, oh, well, he didn't bring him on. So I'm not sure, Ras. I feel like it's harsh. I feel like Martinelli is purely a fitness thing. I don't know if anybody's seen that video. I know Xander shared it in the Discord server. For those of you that are members of the channel. A really interesting insight into Martinelli's injury, and it probably makes you a little bit more understanding of why there is a need to be careful with him, even at this stage. What else have we got here? Going back to the Dangote comments, Chris agrees with me. He says, personally, I don't want anyone who's only talk, especially someone who's talking for 10 years or so and done nothing. Exactly. He's done nothing. He's not made any offer. He's not interested enough. If he was, he'd have made a bid. That's how I see it. But yeah, we're going to leave it there. Quick reminder, hit the like button if you haven't already. Let's get up to 100 likes at least. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. This show is sponsored by Manscape.com. Head over, check out their products. If you want to make an order, check out our discount code, which is 90min20. You get 20% off, as well as free shipping on your order. I already had a few messages from some of you saying you've taken up that offer. So jokes aside, if it is something that you're interested in, then you're better off using the offer. Up until now, I know that I've got that promo code until the end of the week, I think it is. I think it's Monday next week is the last day. I'll have to check it. It's the 8th, whatever day that is. So the current deal that we've got with Manscaped, it expires on March the 8th. So if you do want to take up the offer, and there's no obligation to do so, it doesn't make a difference to me, but it is there, and you can get 20% off, and it is worth taking up. Jashar says, did you see my super chat? I must have missed that, mate, because it's scrolled up. Let me go back. Hold on. I'll find it. 1 second, mate. I hate missing super chats. That's why I'm uneasy about them. There it is. Jashar. Harry, I think we should keep the homegrown players, but I think we could get 20 to 25 million for Bellerin, 15 to 20 for Torreira, 20 for Guendouzi, and 5 for El Neni. So you'd be, let's say in the worst case there, if you got 20, 15, 20 again, you're looking at 55, and then El Neni, you're looking at about £60 million. I think that's what we could be looking to raise. I've got to be honest. I think that's what we got to be looking to raise in terms of our outgoings. That's the only way we're going to be able to make this summer a significant one, is by raising money on such players. So Jashar, great points, mate, and apologies I missed that the first time around. As I say, the chat is forever updating, and I'm looking at the screen and I'm looking over there, and sometimes I do miss them. So feel free, like Jashar's done, if you do put a super chat in and I don't read it out, It's not because I've done it on purpose. It's because I've genuinely missed it. I always try and read them out. So if I do miss them, feel free to pull me up on it in the chat. It's not a problem at all. Jashar, thank you, mate. Thank you for that. Really appreciate it. Right, gonna leave it there. I'll see you guys very, very soon. Until next time, take care. All the best.
You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast.
I'm Martin Tyler, and you're listening to Harry Symeou.